Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Monday Live, where I have a capable body and an incapable body joining us. Well, I don't know, capable. He's normally injured half the time.
I mean,
well.
I am, but yeah, it's fine.
But,
We'll make it work.
So obviously, I won't be hitting shots today, based on a ruptured Achilles. But a very eventful weekend in golf with a lot of very low scoring and a few hiccups at the end of rounds. Pretty much on every tour, actually.
Yeah, everyone had to go somewhere along the way.
I mean, some crazy low scoring. You look at, was it Michael Brennan shot, was it 64, I think, to come through and win. You'd got, Charlie had a 62 course record on the Saturday. I think Anna Huang had a 64 to win on the Sunday.
Was she eagle on 18 every day?
Every single day, I believe, yeah.
Like, just crazy. How's that for a closing
And
hole?
then Corn Free Tour actually takes the biscuit of
Frankie Harris with a 59.
59, yeah,
I
to
mean,
get a playoff.
I was going to say, Doherty had 64.
5 birdies on the back 9, I think, on the trot.
Leading on the final day to start, shoot 64. You'd probably think, well, you know what, this is my trophy.
I think dumb deal, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Frankie Harris had other
So
ideas.
apparently this weekend, golf's easy.
Yeah, no, go and play it yourself.
Mad scoring. Not like that. Well, the golf is easy. I haven't hit a bad shot yet since being on the crutches. I mean, it's good for the stats.
Have you hit a good one?
Haven't hit a good one either. But I've not hit a bogey. So, yeah. But it is. I think. You can say, are they? The course is set up to be playable. Over here, Centurion was playing firm and fast, but you still got to be in the fairway. You still got to shoot the score. I mean, that is, epically good scoring.
Yeah, I mean, one of
everywhere.
So Connor was playing Centurion today.
Yeah.
Was the one of his plays on clutch has played. He qualified for the Open.
Played the Open at Sandwich a couple of years back.
What was that? 5 years ago.
Yeah.
He was playing Centurion today with a client of his, and he texted me and said how they shot that low. He said, I don't know. He said that was set up brutal. They played it today, obviously on the Monday whilst they're in recovery mode. Yeah. He said it was firm, it was fast. He said I don't know how anyone got close to any of those flags. Interesting.
So there you go.
Yeah. Should we get on to some questions?
Let's go on to some questions, yeah.
Timothy Hawkey. Hit send too soon. There must have been a previous question. It's just not showing on there. Should I get my higher lofts bent so the lines are straight? I'm assuming that's an offset question. So Timothy, if you could just give us that first half of the question again, we'll come back to it.
Yep.
Bucko5. Any thoughts on the upcoming Mizuno Pro S4? Hoping they'll offset ever so slightly stronger than the S3s and maybe a boost to forgiveness, maybe something more akin to the T100?
Yeah, I think so it won't be T100 like, because they won't have tungsten heel and toe. More offset, definitely. I think noticeably more offset. I think that's one thing they definitely added. There is a little bit more of a weight bar at the bottom. I mean, ultimately, the S3 is blade, really. To all intents and purposes, it's as close to a blade as you can get without being a blade. And so I think the jump from that to the M13 is just a little bit big. So S4s certainly have a little bit more mass lower down, a little bit more offset. And quite frankly, the S1 and the S3 could blend into one as far as I'm concerned in terms of performance-wise. But yeah, I think other than no tungsten heel and toe, I think you've pretty much got what you want out of those heads.
So I asked our rep about it when they first appeared out on tour. He said they should start to appear in stores soon-ish, before the end of summer. But he said slightly higher bounce, slightly more offset. Other than that, it doesn't seem, from what he's seen, having seen and done some initial testing, he said it doesn't seem like there's a huge difference. It's just a friendlier looking variation.
It's still going to be a single piece Mizuno forging with no tech.
Yeah. So I think if you were trying to compare it to T100, I still think T100 is probably going to come out more forgiving.
A little more ball speed.
But look, it'll be a slightly less scary looking version, particularly in the long lines. I think we might see some S3, S4 combos. So you get that little bit of look of more forgiveness in the long lines, even if there isn't actually more forgiveness. But look, we'll see when we get. We haven't even seen we haven't had them come in. We haven't seen anything yet.
Not in hand. No.
In hand. So let's see. Joey D2920, wondering your thoughts on driver tech. Been playing a sim driver last couple of weeks and goes further than anything I've hit of recent. New driver every year. It seems like money grab. Well, I mean, a lot of the brands for going forward. Are going to 2 year, or at least 18-month cycle, maybe not full 2 year for some of them.
Yeah.
So I think the money grab of new driver every year will be changing.
Yeah.
Because I think they are now going to that route of, if it's not a tech advancement, there just won't be one.
Yeah, I think it's getting harder and harder to argue for the annual advancements in tech and actually ask the consumer to keep kind of believe it. What they've started to say the last 2 or 3 years is this isn't a driver to replace last year's model. It's for the player who's got 1, 2, 3, 4 years old. So the language has been changing for the last few years on that. Look, Sim was still a good head. I think if you're looking at tailor-made drivers since then, they've now got the application, the bond of the face to the frame right, and we're seeing QI4D is genuinely a very, very impressive head, and I would be surprised if that didn't at least match that Sim. But you do get heads that just suit someone's delivery, and Sim was a good club head. Out the middle, they can't make the face any faster out the middle, but it's definitely faster off centre, I would say, the current ones.
I think as well, particularly for that model as a comparison, depending on your club speed, I found with anything that was the carbon face from Stealth, Stealth 2, and then even QI 10 and 35, is I'd see a ball speed drop from the carbon because it just wasn't strong enough to be able to handle. There was too much face flexion. It just couldn't handle the club speed in. It couldn't give the ball speed back because the retention just wasn't quite there. So depending on club speed, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me that if you were looking at just tailor-made models, that Sim was as good, if not better, than anything else current.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think going forward, you're not going to see the same new driver every year, therefore money grab. I think it will be 2 years and you will only see sort of real big changes as and when they land on the market. Whether that's in forgiveness, shape, whatever it is, there'll be something different when something comes out. It's not just going to be a paint change or face change and off we go. Yeah,
I think you look at Titleist GTS, there is a complete new material in the centre section of the head. It's a complete change. And actually there is they're incredibly kind of upbeat about the tech and what it's doing and what it was going to do, and actually we're sort of seeing they are fast, and GTS2 in particular is fast, but actually is GTS3 is good for keeping spin down as GT3? Maybe not, but then you've got GTS4, which is much more playable. So there is a little bit of they're moving some of the cards around to try and find a very, very small. There's really not a lot left to find ultimately, but what we are seeing take from that Sim model is off-centre performance, ball speed retention, spin retention, stability. This batch of heads, I would say more than any other. I think you look at QI4D and the Titleist ping is been very, very strong this series.
3 Blue CJ, hi fellas, what are your thoughts on the Vokey K grind in the 6 degree bounce, so the low K, for 58? My setup is 50, 54, 58, all 12 bounce, 54, 58 D grind.
Yeah.
I'm finding them a bit clunky with the current conditions.
Yeah, I mean, depending on where you're playing, if you're UK based, then yeah, you will do. Yeah, I mean, it's rock hard out there.
And that high spot on a D grind is a lot more than 12.
Yeah. If they put the actual bounce on, then no one would buy them. I mean, look, I play the D grind in my 56, but I've tapered that. I want that steeper kind of base sole profile front half, but I don't need the peak on it, so I've actually ground that off. So it's kind of more. The back half is more of an S grind, but the front half has got more bounce. Specifically for that reason, it's a little bit more versatile, but gives me a bit more bounce. And I think, what was the half? Was it D grind in the?
D grind in the 54 and 58.
58. And D grind in the 58 is a shed load of bounce.
Yeah.
And certainly, so for UK conditions, where especially out there now, you don't stand a chance of getting that leading edge of the ball.
Nope.
Low K is a massive difference. You're going from something that realistically has over 20 degrees of bounce to something that is down around 8 to 10 of actual degrees of bounce, but the back edge is still quite, it's still there. It's going to sit a lot tighter. If you're playing square shots, it's going to be good. If you do open the face up, back edge is still going to lift that leading edge up quite a bit. So I think dependent on the shots that you want to play with it and how you play them, i.e. open faced or square. If they're square, then it's going to nip through a heck of a lot quicker, and actually will get through rough around the greens. It'll exit the grass a little bit quicker. But if you open it up, and that's where something like an M grind, you have a bit of bounce, but then the back edge gets out of the way, might be a bit more versatile for you.
I wonder if something like the T grind might be a slightly, if you're someone that manipulates the face.
T's pretty.
Yeah, but I'm looking either L or T as kind of like the, so it reduces that back edge.
I mean, if
relief.
you want some protection, there is the K-Star.
K-Star might not be. I mean, you can't get hold of them at the moment.
Apart from that, but, where it's got a bit of front edge protection,
mid-September.
shallower, and then back edge off. But yeah, there are plenty of other options to give you some protection and width and some bounce, but a heck of a lot less than the D grind. And you wouldn't need to go down to the 06 or the K, I think.
Davey G1102. Hi guys, can you compare the Dynapower Carbon and GTS 3, preferably forwards if we have them? Hit a couple of shots with each. I've heard the Carbon is low launch, low spin, but haven't hit it.
I've found the Carbon was actually not a bad comparison for the QI, certainly 35. 40 is not a million miles off, but yeah.
He's going to go and hobble away and see what he can find. Andy Corso 8498. Hello, any idea on the Graphite Design EK shaft when it will be available over here? They're saying September for Japan. I've not seen anything on it whatsoever.
I've seen it listed, but we haven't had it. We haven't had a comms about demos and things yet.
Okay, so the answer's probably. I would imagine it's probably very, very at earliest Q4, but probably looking more like January, based on their normal release patterns. They normally tend to give it the winter of us for Japan only, and then see it across the rest of the world. So I'd guess December, January time. Tim Green 4824. Hi, good to see you at the weekend. What are your thoughts on new lob wedges every year if I'm playing 2 to 3 times a week? Every year maybe is, if you're practicing a lot around that with hard range balls, then sure, but I think if it's 2 to 3 times a week and it's soft, then I think unless you're hitting a lot of full shots with those lob wedges, I don't think you'd get to a point of running the grooves down to need to replace, to see a tangible difference every single year in grind. And he's asking me what shaft. Anything you know roughly will work for a fairway for me, like black 7X. Sorry, Tim, going back to the question on the lob wedge every year, I would be inclined to say every year is unnecessary for 2 to 3 times a week. I think probably every 18 months you'd start to see a real launch spin control difference. But every year is probably unnecessary.
If you practice a lot on kind of sanded practice grounds, or hit a lot of bunker shot practice, then potentially.
Golf Nerd 3. Hi, for someone who likes playing the Tour AD 85S iron shaft around mid 140 to 150 driver ball speed, what driver wood shaft would you recommend?
So we'll go.
Sorry. Plays Tour AD 85S iron shaft.
Yep.
Driver ball speed mid 140s to 150. Driver shaft recommendation.
I mean, it's a bit of tip balance. It's not going to be overly heavy, but 140. I mean, that's where something like an FI in the 5S. Yeah, one of those.
If you want to keep it graphite design and you like that feel, then FI might be a really nice, a nice option. I wonder if you wanted something that maybe just, it's whether or not it pushes the dead weight maybe a fraction too far, is whether something like a Devotion 5 would work. By design it should, but it might just push the dead weight slightly higher, but it might be something that's worth trying. That's probably the two I would lean to as a starting point, is the FI if you want something that has a little more feel and kick at the bottom end, and then Devotion if you want something that feels like it's battling you a little, something you can hit against in that bottom section. It's just setting up the two Wilson and the Titleist fairways. Pro V1 David, what are your views on the Callaway mini spinner? Have you tried it? How does it compare to the U-Wood? What player are both aimed at? So I hit it last week. Our rep brought it in. I have to say I don't understand I didn't see the performance that backs the hype that you're seeing online. I tested it against their 7-wood. It's very, very similar. It's not like it's magically going to launch it a degree and a half higher or spin it another 600 revs. It's a slightly deeper faced version of the Quantum Max 7-wood. I don't know that it's. I don't know that it's any different performance one versus the other. Versus you would very different.
Yeah. Obviously, I didn't hit it.
Shock horror. He by that point had done his leg, so didn't hit it.
But I think you said it felt good for trapping it.
Yeah, if you squeeze it, because of the deeper face, if you squeeze it and get it higher up off the face, it gets into a nice window. But if you're someone that picks it and gets it low, it's either going to overspin, but then it was really inconsistent on spin. I mean, spin variation was up at like 1,000 over 5 shots low on the face. So it's very inconsistent on if you're someone that picks it very clean. I'd be more inclined, if you're someone that's a bit of a picker, I'd be more inclined to go to you, but if you were eyeing between the two. Right, have you got me set up?
I finally got one set up.
Right, where are we starting? GT?
So we can do the same thing with lofts. It's because we've got the 3 and the 5 in the Wilson. I'm going the 3 woods lofted up, just so it's a fair test between both brands.
I haven't hit a 3 wood in a year.
Good.
Because I'm a madman that plays driver 1 iron. So I haven't hit a 3 wood in a long time, so give me a swing here.
Yeah, it's a neutral, I think. So the one thing I think we found with GTS is it's not that lowest, the 3 rather, it's not that lower spin. If you've got a slight fade pattern, I think for me with the Titleist woods, what they've missed a trick on is their launch windows are too similar between the 2 and the 3.
Yep.
Especially if you've got a slightly opening face through impact, it tends to really pick it up and spins it. And then if you draw it, it's a stronger flight, but they don't really have a strong flighted 3 wood this year. Not a consistently strong flighted head, where like you go back to TSR 3, it was a low spin bullet. And that's kind of, for me, there's still a lot of high spin players that need that flight.
Both of those were really good strikes.
Yeah, so 4-1 on spin, 13 launch. It's whereas the previous shot, all that, if I can get that, with the fade pattern, 14-8 launch from 4-5. So, a decent bit of spin on that.
Let's see if
but that's kind of what we'd expect actually from it.
Let's see if I can recreate the same 2 shots when you get the Wilson set up. Be nice to get the same 2 as a comparison to see what they do. Whilst you're setting that up, I'm just going to... Actually, are you really prepared? In which case, I will wait before we do the next question.
Just how shocked he was at how prepared I was for that.
Well...
It's only the movement which is tough.
Once you've got it all, you're fine. It has, I have to say, it has helped. Simon's had at least one of the guys helping out whenever he's been out in the fitting bay, so that someone can get the product and it does make it
my legs
a lot quicker.
Saturday I didn't. I was hopping back and forth to the workshop to put grips on and things. But
it's a very similar shape, I must say.
Yeah.
In terms of head profile, obviously it's different because it's got that carbon crown, but and hasn't got the chrome face that the Titleist has got this year. But it's quite a tidy look. Right, fade first, yeah. Oh, I think I towed it. Sorry.
Bit of a stronger launch window. I think that's what I saw with it. Is it's a down and forwards flight a little bit more. Hence, actually, from I think the Fairway test we did earlier in the year, the video, it actually was not a bad option as an alternative to the TaylorMade, but the TaylorMade across the face was just a little bit better, particularly low on the face. But a bit toey if that's taken. Well, maybe not particularly actually, but 3-7 on spin, so noticeably stronger flight versus the Titleist.
Can I hit 2 draws on demand in 3 shots is the question. Oh no, I just yanked it. Sorry. Give me another one. That's not fair.
But
it's a very different...
Still very different launch window.
Very different sound between the two. Obviously with the carbon it will be.
Yeah.
Very, very much I don't want to call it a tinnier sound because that's not fair. But just a very TaylorMade driver sound. Just that real crisp, clean click. Whereas the Titleist feels like it's got a bit more punch and kick.
It's a more metallic sound, the Titleist.
Yes.
So it's definitely a higher pitch note. It's under solid.
That should draw. No, okay.
Got a bit of a block, but again 3-3 on spin. So actually the flight, this is a head, is very much one to keep that launch and spin down. The Titleist is very much one to keep that launch and spin up.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where, for me, you take the Titleist, the GTS 3, kind of isn't really a 3.
No.
It's almost more that the 2's shallower, yes. So it picks it up well for someone who picks it a little bit more. And the 3 is deeper, lets you trap it a bit more, but it doesn't knock spin down that much. So for me, that's where the TaylorMade and that Wilson is definitely very good.
Yeah. Golf Nerd 3. Are the new 2026 Tensei 1K exclusive to Titleist shafts with RIP technology a true full beans premium version, or is it another watered down OEM shaft?
So Mitsubishi all the shafts they make are technically aftermarket. So what they don't do is they don't make for example, they're not going to make a Diamana and then do a stock Diamana. So the Tensei, the RIP technology is going to be seen in some of their other lines coming through, and within the brands that they encompass. So i.e. Aldila. And so that is something you're going to see in other models, but whereas the shafts they use for the stock options, be it the AV series over the years, the 1K Black, the 1K Pro series are the ones with the higher grade materials and are going to be utilised in the aftermarket more, but it is still a full fat Mitsubishi shaft. It's just not one that you'd see in aftermarket very much, simply because it's their entry level that they use in the stock options. Hope that makes sense.
Mike T990. How much can spin change weight front and back on GTS 3? Also, best way to make draw bias. Is it weight or sleeve or both?
So how much spin difference? I think we saw about 300-400 revs was sort of where I would put it. Where you've got the kind of the 11 and the 5 in a GTS 2 as a standard weightings. It's about 300 revs.
So if you went GTS 3, because you can get more.
Yeah.
I think when I tested GTS 3, okay, my speed, it does change more. I was about 600 when we went super heavy weight in the front, nothing in the back, versus nothing in the front, 15 in the back. It was about 600. I think one of the other guys hit it was about 450. Yeah. So there is some movement, but it massively changes the feel of the club.
Yeah,
because it completely separates back and front, and depending on what you need, how much hand rotation you have, does it get too disconnected if all the weight's at the back, or if there's not enough weight at the back, do you just turn it over way too quickly?
It's like for me, if I have weight at the back, my first miss will be right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out in 5 months. It might not be. But so weight forward has always worked better for me and smaller heads. But I would say with Titleist in a GTS 2, the sleeve making the sleeve more upright. That's the kind of the draw bias element for them. So you might find weight forward and more upright sleeve position would be the bits to help that toe come through as easily as possible.
I would play around with where that front weight is. I wouldn't necessarily just go heel means it's going to draw more. Doesn't always mean
in
that,
the 3
because,
or the 4, yeah.
Because you might actually find in the 3 that, as crazy as it might sound, weight more in the toe might actually make you feel like you need to turn it more and then make it more draw bias. Even though it feels very counterproductive to put weight out there, everyone's slightly different.
Yeah.
Just play around with the settings.
How you react to those settings and weights. Yeah, some players counter it by kind of, it creates a counter reaction.
Yeah. Because they can feel it on the way down, and then they feel like they can chuck it more. But look, just play around with it and see what comes out best. Martin Williams 4759. Hi, I've been having some lessons to try and get a bit of speed back, as only about 90 mile an hour with driver and 77 with 7-iron. Also been looking for a club to go about 195 yards, but couldn't find anything until I tried an Apex U-Wood in a Tensei Black 65X. Was hitting it fantastic. How could that be? I guess like the X is
shaft weight's not. Yeah. The X is the bit that it's not really going to make a difference to performance. It's more that you've got the weight in the right place. Between an S and an X, you're 4% the bend of the shaft, maybe 5 at most. It's going to feel a little bit more stout, but actually it's not going to change whether you get good ball speed or not.
I think Tensei Black is only 2 gram or 1 gram. I think even potentially difference between the X and the S. So from why that works, it may just be that at that weight it's just spot on. You could try the S.
Yeah, it's like a shorter. It'll be a short wood length.
Yeah.
So it's actually that shaft, even if it's 68 gram, is that length. You're effectively in line with more of a low 60s in a driver, 60 odd grams. So it's actually playing lighter because it's trimmed down so much in that club proportionally. And if the head suits and you're timing it well, you're going to get good speed and get good distance. So the shorter length might just make you more efficient.
J Morves, I de-loft my clubs like crazy. Use traditional irons for lofts. Would the T250 launch spec be ideal to try? Does the shaft length of 37 inches 7 iron offset the distance loss with higher loft and thicker clubs? So if you de-loft like crazy, higher loft may not actually cause less distance. If you go with us for a second here. If you take all the loft or strongly de-loft, you might find that total's high, but carry isn't. Whereas you might find that something like launch spec, because it's got 5 degrees more loft on it, actually carries, like Jack had one of the fitters had a fit this afternoon, or sort of lunchtime, where he had a set of G425s. Similar to you, de-lofted it quite a lot. And his total number was great, but his carry wasn't. Jack found 22 yards of carry in his irons by changing to launch spec, because all of a sudden he got the flight up, got the spin up, and he found a completely different window that he'd just never seen before.
And then it's much, much more playable because the difference between total and carry is massively reduced.
Yeah.
And then you can actually play rather than hit it at a green and hope.
So I would be suggesting 37 on a 7 is pretty standard, as a length these days, so it's not longer or shorter to offset. I think give them a go and see what happens.
The head weights are lighter.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. They might need to be made a little heavier, potentially depending on your spec. But they're not. The only thing I would say is they're not the fastest head in the world. But if you're de-lofting a lot, then you're going to create a strong impact position and get ball speed anyway. So if they can give you some forgiveness and flight, that might override the fact that they might not be the hottest head out there.
Yeah.
So
Sully Sade 3266. Hello, have you had any cases of the GTS drivers cracking or the M13 faces deforming and caving in? Just bought a GTS and looking at M13 irons.
So GTS, no.
No, I've seen.
Or maybe, was it maybe one?
I've seen the photos that have appeared, as feels like happens with every release of every brand. There's the photos that appear online. You don't truly know how they've been used and kept as to how that's happened. We've not had a single one in here go yet. Obviously things change, but right now, no. M13s, yes, the old version of the head, the original version of the head, yes, we did. But ultimately the 6, 7 and 8 iron, they admitted that there was an issue with them. They fixed it. They've now released the dot variant that if you were to purchase any now, your 6, 7 and 8 irons will have a little dot next to the writing on the hosel that states it's the replacement head that is more reinforced. It's a slight change to the internal design. They're not. They've said they've tested that 1,000 times more than they did the original. They're not going in terms of caving. One of our demos had gone on the day that I pulled them. I checked it and it just started to cave. But you think how many shots that's had, and it's just an awful lot. Started to go.
And we hadn't seen any
performance.
Certainly hadn't seen any kind of funky results.
I hit it just to entertain, thinking this is going to make a horrible noise and go nowhere. I then hit the other demo that was perfectly fine, and they went the same number. I wouldn't be worried anymore about M13s.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And I wouldn't, with what we've seen, I wouldn't be worried on that GTS cracking noise. Look, every year,
every single head, every brand, every single model from every brand fails
at some point, shape
or form.
They have the way they construct their heads, they have a bond halfway along the crown. Callaway are the same. TaylorMade do it around the back of the crown. That's why you see that classic TaylorMade, it pops off, the crown pops off. Everyone does it slightly differently. They're going to all fail somewhere along the line because of what they're made of.
But they're all, genuinely, all the brands are very good when it comes to warranties on that stuff. If it fails, go back to where you purchased it from, and you will be covered by them as long as within most brands it's a 2-year window, certainly a year at least. But whilst the product is a current product, without question, as long as it's not been abused, then without question they'll replace it.
Yeah. Johnny Else 22. You fitted me into a TSR2 10.5 with a Drago 65-4 2 years ago. I'm struggling to square the face and double cross or slice. I lost some speed since.
Sure.
Do you think the shaft may now be too much?
Potentially, a little bit, yeah. It's got a bit of bounce in the bottom end. If you're taking a bit of speed off, TSR was still a very good head. But if you've got a bit of a two-way, if it's getting a little behind, then if you drag the handle to get the club to the ball, it's going to leave it right. And if your body stalls out and you play catapult with it, then it's going to go over left. So yeah, it could be what sounds like a stupidly small amount, 3 to 5 grams of weight, could be a little bit of swing weight. Chances are it's a little bit of both, but certainly slightly less heavy shaft would be the first protocol for that, for sure. Yeah.
Christian R7051. Hi, great live event. Many thanks for that.
Thank you very much.
Followed it with the question, are Jumbo Max grips still a thing, or did the hype die down?
They are still a thing. I think the problem with any product like that is this is taking this as a very different thing as things like the lab putters and things. Jumbo Max are very grip sizes, your hand size, and how your swing functions around the size of the grip in your hands are very personal things, in that certain swing techniques really suit them and others really don't, and certain hand sizes really suit them and others don't. We still do, we've probably had more players in going bigger grip sizes than ever before. We've had more kind of players at 6'5" plus in who inevitably have bigger hands, and what it's allowed us to do is fit more clubs with bigger grips without grip weight impacting on the way the club swings and the setup, and making a really funky dead weight and kind of swing weight balance profile. Case in point, you can get a Jumbo Max, the Zen Lights, at a 48 gram and about the same size as a normal Jumbo, and you get a CP2 Pro Jumbo at 81 grams. You've just added 30 grams to the butt end of it. So they still have a really good function, but there are times you see someone go into a bigger grip that you really don't expect to, and it works. But they tend to be someone who's got a strong body movement. It's a body release and a quiet hand action that suits a proportionately bigger grip, or someone just with massive hands. So they are still a thing, but I think there's now the ability to test them a little bit more easily, and so you can find out whether it suits you or not, rather than buying them and going, oh no.
Rather than spending
oh yes, but yeah,
obscene amount that they ultimately are in comparison to other grips. But
definitely still a thing, but we always stick to lighter ones, because look, someone like Bryson, who can cope with 120 gram grip is not normal.
I did a set of the Tour L's recently for a guy playing one length who was ex-hockey pro, was very strong, very steep, so then needed the weight to help it fall in line. But I think that's the only set of, I had to put the variable on our system because it wasn't on there. Yeah. That's how few of those in the heavier sizes.
We see even going to some of the mid sizes at 66 grams, and then reweighting the club and retesting just doesn't work. So it takes the heavier weights take a very, very particular type of player.
Yeah. Pro V1 David back again with another question. Struggle with 3-wood launch. What would you recommend swing speed at 80? I would be inclined.
Potentially, don't look at a 3-wood.
I would be inclined to suggest that it's probable that it comes from a swing speed not quite being high enough to create the dynamics needed to get modern 3-woods to launch in the same way as old. Yeah. It might be that there's so many 3HLs, we do so many 3HL 7-woods now, for people whose...
Or when they actually call them a forward.
Yeah, whose fairway wood swing speed is around that 85, 90 to sort of 90 to 70, that actually, it wouldn't surprise me if a 3HL forward or even a 5-wood is potentially the better way to go, just for creating the same launch and spin as a 3-wood.
100%. I mean, the amount more of the first loft of fairway wood being a 4 or 5-wood loft that we do now is infinitely more than it used to be. And as you say, the heads spin a bit less, the balls spin a bit less at the higher speeds and when hit with woods. So the key thing at a moderate speed is get the ball up in the air and get it carrying. If you pick it, that's where something like a G. If you're not a divot taker and hit down with the woods, then something like the 440 G440 pings are fabulous for that. Callaway, if you don't need as much spin, tend to be very good, but the pings for a picker are great. And if you squeeze it a little bit, that's where the higher lofted ones in the TaylorMade is a really, really good head as well. Or you've seen that the Titleist launched pretty well too. So there are now a lot more options, but you probably find you just need more loft.
Yeah. That's a name I haven't seen in a while. I love Turtle.
Ah, there's a range of putters coming out you might be interested in.
Hi Simon, did you find time to test Duramax and TM driver head? And if so, will you be making the change? I'm guessing not for now.
No, I'd sort of done a couple of small tests, but I was going to be, the plan was to be doing a proper kind of test and film it, and I'm now out for the rest of the year. So yeah, there'll be a different video on that one at some point. I mean, so the video that will be coming will be as and when I first wheel the club again, and I'll do a session with Lewis and kind of go, right, well, where's my swing at?
Yeah.
Because I'll have been out for 5-6 months. So I'll do it at some point, but I don't know when.
I am quite excited to see that first swing back as to how different the body moves.
I'm hoping I don't move off the ball.
We're theorising all sorts about how he moves and how he's not going to be able to move in the same way, and whether or not that setup quirk of setting it up out the toe, moving onto it will change because flexibility will be slightly different.
It will
all fun to find out.
Genuinely be very interesting.
And we'll have these cameras rolling whilst we're doing
watching. But yeah, I guess in principle, had the do the rehab properly, I'll be back to as good a condition as I was before, but I won't have done anything for, this for 2 weeks and then a boot for 10 weeks. So end of October the boot comes off and then I start rehabbing the Achilles, and then 2-3 months later I'll be kind of functionally walking in things, I'd hope. But I need to check with Kate to be realistic with my expectations, let alone swing a golf club. So yeah, handicap will go up.
Might not start with we'll still start with a plus because you're a joke, but
well, we'll see. We'll see. It won't take me too many rounds to change the average score, I think. But no, so it will be genuinely interesting to see what the hell is the right thing when I come out at the end of it, because it could be something. It
we'll get you a
be
game improver
too
set
different,
to start,
but it could be something quite different.
Yeah, nice little game improver number.
Hope not though. Hope not, because I'm proud.
You just want it to still be the blades.
I'd like to think I could get back to hitting those properly. Yeah.
Lee Roberts 3087. Keep up the good work, guys. Many thanks.
Thank you very much.
Currently play KBS Tour V in irons for the last 7 years. Really interested in the Axioms next year. Do they align, or are they chalk and cheese? Will they go Velocore Plus going forward? I don't.
Velocore Plus, but it's an interesting one with the Axiom. Theory would suggest they would, but if they're just on the TR range.
If they do, it won't be for at least
a couple of years.
Another 2 years, based on their patterns of when Ventus to Axiom. If we base it on the same rate, I think we're probably 2.5 years away. It'll be start of, what does that make us? Start of 29. It's probably when we'll see it. Start of 2029.
I would guess. I mean, in actual fact, with what it's done for the other ranges, it would smooth it out a bit.
Yeah, it wouldn't feel quite as harsh, especially in the heavier weights.
Tour V to Axiom, they're pretty different beasts. The Axioms are fairly bottom weighted, stout feeling, but their balance is much more towards the lower half than a Tour V, which is very, very neutral through. I wouldn't go as far as saying counterbalance for steel, it's a sort of upper mid, but they will swing pretty differently. They're both very stable structurally, but they will feel very, very different from a timing point of view.
Yeah, I think if you were in something like C-Taper, it might be a conversation change.
Like that.
But I think Tour V, just too different.
Yeah.
The first cut. I've done a ping fitting recently, and Tensei 1K black 65 stiff in the driver, which is a 440 max 10.5, and Modus 115S in a set of I240s. 3 questions off the back of that information. Any recommendations for wedge shafts? Are both shafts tip balanced? And then online ping spec says D5 for driver, but only D1 for irons.
So drivers, because they build long, I mean, they go 45 3/4, which is quite frankly ridiculous.
Have they pushed it to 46?
I don't think so. That would be the K. I mean, look, the average length on tour is 45 at most, and yet you're asking your average player to play something that none of the tour pros would they might have tried it, but they wouldn't put it into competition with, because hitting the fairway is important. So that's why the swing weight is D5. You take 3/4 inch off, you're back down at D1.5, D1. They both tip balance, yes. And actually, it's, not an indifferent. The Tensei 1K Black's up at 67 odd grams, so it's on the stronger end of the 65 odd gram options. And the Modus 115s are kind of 117, 118. So that, again, they're on the slightly kind of stronger end. So there's a lot of continuity there. I mean, D1 in the irons might be a hair light compared to where your driver setup is. But at least with the pings, at least the pings, they've all got the screws in, so you can fine tune them if need be.
But that D1 will probably be with
what length it is as well.
Their standard AWT spec. It may be different. Once you put the Modus in, there will be a slight variance in what the swing weight actually comes out, because they state their swing weights that they state on the website are in the standard stock shaft. So depending on what that is, I can't even think what the stock one, Modus 115, I don't think it's the stock one that came with.
What head is it?
The 240.
Is it a dynamic old mid?
That's what I thought it was.
So actually it wouldn't be too different. Maybe it's marginally heavier, half a point, maybe a point heavier, but
I think they probably would come out close to D2, at which point they're a little closer.
I mean, wedge shafts is the Modus 115. Depends what sort of feel you want. I mean, the Modus 125 in principle would be, in theory, one to go to, but it's going to be a hard feel. They're quite a firm feeling shaft, I think. If you want to smooth it out a little bit, but you're going to need to keep a bit of balance in the bit in the bottom end just to get a bit of feedback out of it.
Would you go something like 6?
Dynamic old spinner.
Okay, yeah, true.
Dynamic old spinner would keep it a little bit. It's 128 gram. That might be one to go with. Keeps a bit of feedback in the tip of the shaft.
I wonder whether something like 6, 10, 120. Keep the weight similar, but it's whether you lose the feel too much into the midsection.
Shouldn't be far off. Yeah. And you might find actually the 115s work into the wedges depending on technique. So don't discount keeping the same shaft. But for a lot of players, you tend to go about 10 grams heavier.
Yeah.
So.
Apart from me, because I can't go much heavier than what's
in
the
irons. If you're already in 130 something, then
Bucko 5. How would you rate Miura TC202 forgiveness against other similar CB irons? Less forgiving, more forgiving, no discernible difference.
So I've got it in my 5-iron and was playing blade.
And that was
and that jumping to a P774 iron was a bit much.
That was a faff getting your 5-iron sorted.
Sensitive creature. So certainly gain forgiveness. I guess you're comparing it against something like, I guess, S4 would probably be a comparable, but we haven't hit that yet. I would say to anything that hasn't got tech in, it definitely has a kind of a bit of a step on than like a CB style head. I definitely felt like I got a little bit more ball speed off of it versus a kind of so certainly the blade head picked up a little bit of yardage off of it, while still keeping the solid feel. So I think we'll be a comparable head with it. You'd probably find something like a Blueprint S might feel a little bit more forgiving. I don't think the ball would notice too much difference between the two, but it might feel a bit more.
I think like P7 CB is
a hair more forgiving, maybe.
Yeah, but that's probably your closest. Sorry, I was just kind of like visually trying to eyeball the rack. I think P7 CB is probably your closest. Numbers, pure numbers wise, probably your closest.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So the answer is it sits pretty similar to other models in that same bracket. It's not one that's
possibly doesn't launch quite as high as something like P7 CB. Not quite. It's not like it's a low launch head, but it's like it's a Mura one-piece forging. It's not, they haven't stuck tungsten in the sole and things to help launch, to help margin of error, like pretty much every other club head has. It's probably not wildly dissimilar to ZXi7.
Yeah, it's probably your best.
Wildly dissimilar to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Noel 1988. Evening, gents. I'm late. How dare you? Just wondering, deep face 3 woods for off the tee. I cracked the crown on my Elite driver, and then made a point of saying manufacturing fault to make sure we know it wasn't him.
Deep face, I think. So it's an interesting one. It's potentially a video I might be doing with Matthew tomorrow if he's got time. Is to talk about kind of fairway woods and like the whole.
News to me.
Yeah, I know. I haven't talked to you about it yet. I thought to drop those. But where we've got the whole mini driver, lofted driver, 3 wood thing. Deep face 3 wood. Look, it's what you've probably used. I've used for forever as an alternative teeing off club, and I've always got on very well with. In the past, I've always got on well with the 3 wood off the tee. But there are arguments to say, well, if it's just a teeing off club, why have a fairway wood when you can gain forgiveness from the mini drivers, the GTS 300s of this world, where you've got more clubhead to get away with. And the extreme of that is this sounds a bit odd as the Thriver 3 wood driver concept that some of the tour players are using. A few of Ping's guys are putting a lofted driver in at 3 wood length because the really, really rare time they need it off the deck. Well, it's a kind of almost like a shot to nothing kind of thing. It's worth the risk. But having a much more forgiving head to put it in play, but with a 3 wood spin and flight, and that's the key thing here, is they're not trying to make it a mini driver. They're trying to make it a 3 wood, just a really forgiving fairway wood flight.
I think the Ping
there's a lot more conversation about that now.
I think the Ping one maybe doesn't count because from all accounts, their mini driver prototype is not good. The one that's out on tour, which is why so many of them going to this 12 that are actually more like 14-degree drivers. It's because the performance from the mini, there's only like 2 of them still playing it on tour because they just can't make it work. Yeah, and why they haven't pushed it into anything as of yet. But my immediate, when I read the question before reading it out, I was immediately thinking, rather than a deep face 3 wood, why not just do a mini? Like something, for example, like an R7 13 and a half. I mean, they've just done they did 15 and a half at the start of this year.
Well, we're meant to be getting some. But,
and then they're redoing them for the back half of this year's. If you want something at that 3 wood loft, maybe look at something like a 15 and a half.
I mean, they're still playable off the ground.
Oh, they pick up so nicely because they've got a bit of that V sole through the midsection. They pick up so nicely off the deck that you could, or even, to be honest, the one we don't probably talk about enough, the Cobra off the deck. That thing is as good as any fairway wood.
Weight back,
and it's at 13 degrees, and you can peg it up and just smash it.
So I think if the priority is the off the tee side of things, then seriously look into the more lofted mini drivers. Mini drivers, or like the say GTS 300 that's just replacing the 280s, a bit more club head size there. That's a bit of a hotter flight. They've definitely given that a bit more punch.
They've matched that more for what Tour wanted, definitely.
But if you're primarily using it as a fairway club, then that's where the 3 woods, they get the centre of gravity sits low, they get into the bottom of the ball better. But it's an interesting. There are more options now than there's ever been in that bit. Hope that actually answered your question.
And if not, sorry. Joey D 2920 back with another one. What do you attribute to the Ventus shaft success on tour? Is their tech that much better? There are endless shaft options, preferably, I think, Diamana feel phenomenal in the PD GT. A lot of the time, tour is, that guy's better than he was. What's he changed? I'll try it. Off we go. You know, a lot of them made the switch after Cam Smith put it in the bag, went from one of the worst drivers on tour to, I think he finished 3rd in driving accuracy four events in a row, and was then in the top 10 in driving distance of those on the fairway. And so everyone went, hang on, what are we missing here? And
a little bit, to quote Adam Scott, who you'd think doesn't need to copy anyone because he's that good. There was an interview with him, and there was a similar kind of question asked about what about products when you see a load of pros go to them. He basically said, we're all sheep. If we see someone playing well with something, we'll want to try it because, well, that must be the key. And so a brand like the Ventus brand within the Fujikura models, within the Fujikura brand, brand within brand. Essentially, that model has got so much traction because you've got the red, the blue, the black profiles, which are all tour profiles. The red is not a high launch spinny shaft. It is a stable shaft that's the highest launch and spin of the Ventus range. And then the fact of the TR in there, you've got so many profiles that they could go into, and Fujikura work quite hard at supporting tour. You factor all that together, and then you get the likes of Scheffler and McIlroy in it, and they're all going to want to play it because they trust it.
Yep.
And tour pros are way worse at that than you think they are. You'd think they would just play what works for them, but the moment they hit one, you put them in a different model that no one else is using, and they rip it, and you fit it. This is unbelievable. This is the best for them. And then they have one bad practice round where they're just swinging it crap, and they'll change it out for something.
Yeah,
that
they've played 15 days in a row because they've done practice round for 4 days and made the cut in 2 rounds in a row, and all of a sudden they have a bad day and they go, okay, well, what's next? Because it clearly isn't this. It's they refuse to admit it's them, because if they admitted it was them, they wouldn't be there in the first place. Because that's just the mentality you have to get to that level.
And you saw it with the Spider putter. Jason Day, Dustin Johnson, look, the putters are good putters, but they also got red hot at the same time, and they're both using Spiders. And then all of a sudden, kind of more of them try them. They're all good, so they use them well, and then one thing feeds the other. They're still, like, Ventus is still a great shaft, but the Diamanas are a great shaft. The Acras are great shafts. The TPTs are great shafts, but there's a lot of kind of mental frailty and trust involved in that many of them using it.
Tom Ashmore 4128. Welcome back, guys. Went to the Open and Ladies Open this year. Jealous.
Yeah.
I noticed there was a lot more diversity in the shafts the ladies play compared to the men. Is that more to do with speed and tempo? A bit of what we just discussed, and a little bit of they are, unfortunately, just because of attendance and viewership in the past and the money that was in the game, they are less supported by the brands at events than the men are. So they are less able to tinker and try and have all that, all those eyes and support on them in the practice days.
Well, case in point, Centurion, one of the girls who we've worked with in the past, and when we were talking to and just going over some bits on Friday back in the day, Friday, and ultimately there are a couple of bands there until Wednesday, and then they go. So whereas at the men's tournaments, there's still a bit of that. They're maybe not there all the way through Sunday, but they're there through certainly the first 2 days of the tournament.